32.
Absolutely, because it gets you that confirmation that, yes, you are going to the National Championships, the North American Championships later on in the year, the next chance to play competitive Lorcana. And here we are going into round 12, game 1. A couple of players you may recognize on the left. We've got Ryan, otherwise known as RMB. And as you can see, he is on the Amber Amethyst deck. Will it be the whale combo, Katie?
That is the question of the day, because we've talked about it a few times. You see the ink combo. In this meta, I found more than almost any meta, you see the two ink combos, or a combination, that doesn't tell you the whole story.
Exactly.
You have to watch the deck, one game, maybe 2 games with this combo. I mean, it doesn't, statistically speaking, most of the time it doesn't even win with the combo. So if it's a combo's there, he might not see it the first turn. There's some telltale signs that he might see inked, but that's something Trevor will be looking out for. But Ryan doesn't necessarily know what Trevor's up to either.
Yeah, Trevor's definitely going to have some tricks up his sleeve as well on that Emerald Sapphire. We see the bump to start us off, and we're off to the races. But yeah, Emerald Sapphire known to utilize that Philip sweep combo. We're going to see the ink of Elsa and no one drop from Ryan on a purple-yellow deck. That is devastating.
It is, because, I mean, when you're talking about control decks, you have a little period in the beginning to be a little
We got to read them.
curious.
Sorry, Katie, but we got to read them. We've got to read them.
What a flex.
You've always got to draw attention to the readers. This is Anderson. We got a reader number 2. We got a double reader. That is indeed Stop Chaos in his tracks. Tell us about that song, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, this is a song where you are going to be able, it's kind of used as a tempo card, so you are able to return, I believe, up to 2 targets to the player's hand. And
3 strength or less,
yes,
which is quite a lot of characters.
It is, and it can be, like we said, we call them sometimes tempo plays, control, but it's going to go ahead and move it, and it's a sing together. So it's something where you can have a couple medium bodies and sing it, maybe a Cinderella and some kind of other ramp card could do it. However, I saw some other very interesting cards. I saw an Ink-geyser in there.
An Ink-geyser, and certainly capable of shenanigans, as I like to put it. We're going to see that lantern played from Ryan on turn 2, an item which allows you to exert it to pay 1 less for the next character you play, meaning we're able to put out that mystical fighter Rafiki absolutely free. What a bargain, Katie, and that's going to be followed up by an inking of your welcome and that all-important turn 2 ramp in the form of Tipo.
Yes, notably Ryan hit his turn 2 ramp, in quotes, with that lantern, and there we go, we got the same thing. So it's kind of one of those interesting things. I've heard Amber Amethyst described as a blurple, or, you know, it's kind of got that, it's got this ramp, the blurple ramp with this Amethyst. But here we go, we're able to adjust 3 ink and the lantern, play a genie, get the card draw, which is the other hallmark of why you would play Amethyst.
I mean, Amethyst cards are just powerful, Katie. So they tell me. So the word is on the street, and this lantern does indeed open up that turn 3 genie, something normally equated to the blurple decks. That's going to draw a card as we pass back to Trevor. He is going to throw ink a second copy of your welcome. That's 2 down. I'm sure Ryan is keeping count, because we do know that your welcome plus Clarabelle can be an awfully dangerous combination. Down comes the Cinderella Dream Come True. She has the whatever you wish for ability at the end of your turn. If you played a princess character this turn, and spoilers, Cinderella is a princess, and she does trigger herself, you may put a card from your hand into the inkwell and then draw a card. And that card could be anything. It doesn't have to be inkable, Katie.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes people say, well, it's not card draw really, but it's keeping your hand side a little bit stable. Yes, you have to, you're getting that ramp, but you get to have a new card into your hand. So we're keeping his hand side, or Trevor's hand size nice and ample here. And we're seeing him finally develop his board. This deck can be a little slow, but this is quite the move here.
Yes, absolutely. And what's really interesting there was in the turn before, we saw Ryan play that Elsa, exert the Cinderella, and finish off the Rafiki. If Trevor had played this Clarabelle down sooner in the game, which a lot of Emerald players would, it probably would have been the target of that Elsa to break the shift line. But Trevor, a super heads-up play, playing the 1-drop Clarabelle, and immediately shifting for a cost of 5 into Clarabelle. But now we see one of my favorite songs, the world's greatest criminal mind, banishing any character with 5 strength or less. Or more. Sorry.
Which in this meta is not something that's hard to find. We see another one on the board, but it's very fascinating because we tend to think of Amber and Steel as like the removal colors, but with the Horseman Strikes and World's Greatest Criminal Mind, this deck has access to some pretty powerful spot removal that we just saw. That Clarabelle is pretty hard to remove, but in this case, done in one simple small song.
100%, and we saw earlier Ryan actually inked that Ellen Wee, a new card from Whispers in the Well, from the Black Cauldron. She has that support keyword, and I imagine there are more cards in this deck with that support, so the World's Greatest Criminal Mind should be pretty online throughout the match, and you've got to think Ryan is also utilizing the Horseman Strikes to get rid of some of those pesky evasives. But another Clarabelle from Trevor.
Truly my favorite thing, when somebody says, I remove this, and you say, no, you don't.
No, you didn't.
I stand firm.
I don't believe you.
And one of the things we talked about the disparity between the decks. I mean, one of them is Amethyst, which is the strongest color for card
Purple
draw.
card's good.
Yes, but Clarabelle is there to say, I can help with this. It takes advantage of a greedy Amethyst meta.
Let me help you. Down comes that Ursula Whisper of Vanessa, an incredibly powerful new card. You may boost 1, and for that price, she gains evasive and an extra lore, and she's a 4/5. Really a tricky character to answer in the evasive game plans of many decks these days. We see that Junior Woodchuck guidebook come down for a cost of 2, a card that you can then pay 1 and exert it to banish it and draw 2 cards. We're not going to be triggering that straight away, just leaving it out for a rainy day, Katie.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is an example of why people have been teching in item removal into these decks. But there we go. We saw it ink twice, but we finally get to see it do the thing that it's supposed to do, which is stopping that chaos of Ryan's board getting wide and bouncing 2 of his cards back to him with 2 strength or less in this case. It looks like I got so excited about seeing it, but I believe there's Genie. And
then You're Welcome being used to target that Ursula Whisper of Vanessa. Again, a very tricky card, and it's going to shuffle it into the deck and make Ryan draw 2 cards. And that's going to do a couple of things, Katie. First of all, that Deona is stone by day and will no longer be able to ready at the start of the next turn. But more importantly, this Clarabelle going to gain a lot of advantage from Ryan's very healthy hand size.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we've seen all weekend with this Emerald is it's just shenanigans aplenty because it's taking advantage of the fact that they get to choose. I mean, this You're Welcome can target items. It can go ahead and replenish your hand size, your opponent's hand size. In this case, it's double punishing. Like you said, it's saying that I get to draw cards now, right? Trevor gets to. And then Deona, hope you like resting because you are stone right now.
You are made of stone, and apparently having cards means it's sunny. Apparently
exactly.
That's the theme going on here.
It feels sunshiny when I have cards, I do think. But
love that for you. But here we go. 2 being paid for Mowgli, the man cub that's going to make Trevor reveal his hand, and then Trevor can discard any non-character card of his choice. The only one in the hand being Under the Sea, which is a perfectly reasonable card to get rid of for Ryan.
Yeah, you get to choose, but when there's only one, the choice is pretty quick for most players. But it's also interesting because when we do these cards like Mowgli and Ursula Deceiver, it's first you get to see, okay, am I going to be able to get rid of anything from their hand? But the second thing is you get information, and we just saw 2 key pieces of information because we see Jasmine, and we've been watching a lot of games today, but we have not seen a lot of Jasmine shift. We see sometimes a Jasmine shift in Sapphire Steel, but this is Sapphire Emerald. So we see the Jasmine Resourceful Infiltrator, but we can actually even shift, which is something I haven't seen today.
I saw it yesterday, actually. A bit of Spice, the Emerald Jasmine, who can bounce all exerted characters back to hand. We're going to see a 3rd World's Greatest Criminal Mind, another Clarabelle back to the storybook. Hades making his way into the inkwell. Of course, this lady, Hades, looking for a deal. The artist joining us in the venue here this weekend. Did you get yours signed, Katie?
I did. It was a good deal.
It was a good deal.
I was looking for a deal. I said, can I have a signature? And he's like, what's the downside? I said, there is no downside. Double Hades reference. But
you're quite the schemer of the infernal variety, I would say.
So things are looking...
that is huge.
There we go.
This 1-drop Clarabelle, Katie, which really is here to be a shift target for the big Clarabelle, but also does have that ability where you can pay 2 ink to banish a chosen item, and the items becoming more and more relevant in our format. Obviously, that Lantern, and in other decks you see things like the Emerald Chromacon, the Amethyst Chromacon, Ink Runner, the list goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we've seen players all day say, I am so afraid of items. We have things like the Lantern and Junior Woodchuck guidebook that we saw. And so a lot of people have been teching in item removal, but this deck just happens to have it. Between You're Welcome and Clarabelle, Clumsy Guess, it's already there, but then now they're saying, well, now I got to use it. And so suddenly this one cost that you play on turn 1, you might need it later, and we just saw it used to great advantage now.
Genie coming down with the What Comes Next ability, going to draw a card, and Mowgli going on a little challenge of his own into the Tipo. Both will live to tell the tale, but of course damage on characters can be very important for the likes of the Cheshire Cat, an inexplicable card inclusion in these purple decks.
Absolutely. Cheshire Cat is one of those cats that I have seen enter the board and be removed as quickly as possible because it is a problem. A lot of these cards have on-play effects, meaning when you play it, it happens, or maybe it activates once, but this is a card that can activate any turn as long as you have 2 ink. But we're not going that route. We're just going to say I have a big 4/6 Iago on the board. Just saying, this is something that can take care of 3 of the characters pretty easy.
Absolutely. The Iago Giant Spectral Parrot is the reason a lot of decks are including extra copies of action cards, just because this 4/6 body evasive on a 4 cost is an absolute truck. I mean, it is a Giant Spectral Parrot. What do you expect? So this could absolutely cause some mayhem.
Yes, mayhem indeed. And we do have that John Silver, which can be a very powerful tool in a control deck, or specifically in this control deck. He gives that reckless when he comes into play, whenever he quests. So if there's only one character on the board, he can be devastating. In this case, we've got a couple options. In this case, he gave it to Mowgli first, but now we're keep going wider. I'm like trying to talk about John Silver. Here we go. We got Clarabelle deployed, and then that Jasmine shift target that we talked about earlier also coming down.
The John Silver going to go on a quest, and he does have that pick your fights ability on play and on quest. You may give Reckless to an opposing character. Reckless meaning that they cannot quest and must challenge if able. That if able text is very important, Katie. If you can exert it in any other way, singing a song, or maybe you have something like a Dumbo, which can give the exert ability to other evasives, that is a way of getting around it. But short of that, this genie will be forced to make a challenge.
Yeah, and it's something where I always go, do I have a song? But Ryan is, I mean, he has some actions, but not a lot of songs going on. So it's one of those situations where he has to see, is there any way around it? But as long as there's a nice lineup of characters exerted, it is much more difficult. So now he has a situation where he has a pretty healthy hand of cards here. I think I saw the Horseman Strike, which is one of my favorite cards, but notably everything is firmly not evasive on the other side of the board.
It's not really for this matchup.
No.
The blue-green deck isn't really counting on evasives. Really, that's for the purple piles. But this Iago is going to challenge and get rid of the Tipo, and the Genie going to go into the Clarabelle, so taking 1 damage apiece. Again, the Genie had to challenge because of the Reckless given by the John Silver, and Trevor's board was looking pretty wide, but Ryan doing a decent job of keeping it tidy as he can. Down comes an Enchanted Ninth Wonder of the Universe. 2! Another one.
Wait. Let me show you
there's
something.
more.
Yeah, the 8th, and now we're up to the 9th. But yes, the Wonder of the Universe, and it pairs excellently with the evasives on the board. You generally want to deploy this Dumbo once you have an evasive on board, because then you can take advantage of his ability where he is going to make some history by getting that lure, getting the card draw. I say one or the other. 2 seems a little greedy, but we also see Elanwi.
Did
I get it?
That cauldron.
All right.
Absolutely. You notice, Katie, that Deona has been made of stone for about 5 turns at this point. Go home, Deona. You
gotta go to work.
You're not doing anything, Deona.
Please tap back in here. And so it's so interesting because I mean, Demona's kind of like one of those conflicting cards where you're like, I need to draw a card. Demona, help me draw a card. Don't draw a single more card. And so I think Ryan has to be very careful of the You're Welcomes, the Mother Knows Best, all the sort of shenanigans that Trevor's deck is known for. But this is a shenanigan indeed.
The Ink Geyser, yes. This is a 3-cost uninkable dueling action. Each player exerts all cards in their inkwell. Then each player with more than 3 cards in their inkwell, which is both players. Ryan just reminding himself exactly what this does. This card actually quite famously nearly made R&B quit the game, but he is here, and it's now a full circle moment for RMB. But yeah, this Ink Geyser, you return cards at random from your inkwell to your hand, both players this is, until you only have 3 cards in your inkwell. Who do you think this is going to be the greater detriment to?
Well, I'm trying to see if Ryan only has, they only have 1 card in hand, because ultimately Trevor has much more expensive stuff to do, but he might have more ramp tools. If he can go ahead and do a Cinderella next turn, he can build up a little bit more incrementally and faster than Ryan can. Notably, he got rid of the Lantern earlier.
Choosing for each other. Sorry to cut you in there.
Oh, yeah. What's going on as far as what that was?
Different players have different ways of sorting out the randomness, right? And in this instance, I think both players just swapped inkwells and allowed their opponent to pick 3 at random to be returned to the hand, which, again, as long as both players agree, all above board.
Exactly. You've seen dice rolls. Basically, it's just making sure it is random.
Yeah.
In this case, we see some fun tools going back into Tyler's hand. But on the flip side, there is a cost to this magic in the sense that you're bouncing the cards back to the hand. They're not going away, so they're back in the hand.
So that Deona is absolutely not turning back to life anytime soon. Great to see a big smile from R&B, some nice table talk, a big laugh, and there's the Stop Chaos in his tracks. A little bit of a grimace from R&B, but good to still see him smiling.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when people are Okay. That is exactly. You can't help but to smile like a tiny bit because you can't believe these moments are happening. Where you're like, is this really how this works?
We started off with a big smile, and then the second one was like more like a titter, and
Yes.
now I think he is just feeling things. That's a big hand. though.
Yeah. He has
That's
a lot
wide
of
grip.
a lot of literature to go through in the moment. So one of the things that this Trevor's deck takes advantage of is, yes, he did lose some ink, but he has advantage where he can ramp like we talked about, and he did take advantage of that. He does have the ability where he can do shifting, and he also can do sing together. So stop gazing and track and sing together, and then basically can split. And a lot of these decks are saying how much value can I get for the least amount possible, and in this case, he got a ton of value that turn.
Yeah, that in-guys is certainly impactful. We find ourselves in a position where Trevor is left with a pretty wide board of, like, John Silver and Claravel are pretty good characters, and Ryan with simply that frozen or turned to stone Deona, who has been sideways for a long time.
I have forgotten she's there. It's like when you have a fixed thing in your field of view and you don't see it anymore. That has been Deona, because she got out there and she said, don't worry, guys, I'm one of the best new cards. I'm a 5/6, but we see Trevor just ignoring her too. She's just been hanging out, not even dealing with it. In this case, this is one of the advantages of having a lower, they call it lower to the ground, but having these lower cost characters is you can flood the board. However, flooding the board is dependent on how many cards you have, or how much ink you have. In this case, 4. So he can only do 4 1-drops, which is something, but I think he knows that he's in a little deep water here.
Absolutely, but at least he did have this collection of 1-drop characters to go wide and try to match the sort of board presence that Trevor has. Of course, Trevor with a couple of slightly bigger characters, but this is certainly a good start for Ryan. Trevor going to play that Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman at the start of your turn. Both players may draw a card.
Oh my goodness, and speaking of sing together, they just sang another tune.
There you go. We'd be singing tunes all the live long day, and we are going to be going to a game number 2. That ink guys are pretty impactful there, Katie.
And it's one of those things that it is, I think a double-edged sword is a theatrical term here, or maybe a literary term, but basically you have to be careful with it. You are getting rid of your ink too. And traditionally, I mean, it's not traditionally ran in the color combination of Emerald Sapphire. It's ran in that color combination, which is known for having pretty expensive stuff. So like we saw with Trevor, he had to be very careful and wait to the point where he had the characters and the songs where that would pair well together. And it worked out because once he had his lineup, they could sing the Stop Chaos in a Shack, Under the Sea, and really keep managing to be in the game, re-ramp. And it was like nothing happened to him, but Ryan couldn't recover.
Yep, absolutely. If there's anyone that can, R&B is a very experienced player. Made top cut at the U.S. National Championship, has made top cut at DLCs. A very well-respected player in the game, and it's great to see him performing well here in round 12.
Yes, and I think at this point, he's had a time to think about a little bit. I mean, he didn't have a lot of time to think because Trevor was throwing a lot of pretty chaotic things at him. Stopping chaos on the track, he was doing a lot of chaos. But I will say, he sees that Jasmine as well. So Ryan knows, he's like, okay, I can go fast, but that Jasmine shift combination could punish me for doing that. I can try to control, but can I out-control a control deck? So Ryan has to be very careful navigating this matchup because Trevor just kind of outclasses him in everything, but I think card draw. I think Ryan can have more access to the card, but then he gets punished again because Clarabelle.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting at this point, I haven't seen anything from R&B to suggest that we are playing the well combo, so it does seem like, again, I could be wrong, maybe it was all buried at the bottom of the deck, but it does seem that we are a non-combo version, so we are purely relying on the strength of Amethyst cards, plus those amber cards that we've already brought attention to, the Lantern, the Horseman Strikes, the world's greatest, and of course this 1-drop Ellenwy.
Yes, and like we mentioned, she is one of those cards that we know and love this 2-1 stat line from Basil, but that Practice Detective is now a Princess of Ear, where she is able to add support, which normally you want to support your allies. In this case, you can add that support and make her targetable by that World's Greatest Criminal Mind if there's something on the other side that doesn't quite reach that 5 strength threshold, that World's Greatest Criminal Mind. So both of them have a little bit of wiggle room to do some devious deeds, and it's very exciting to see how they work it. But there we see Kita going into the inkwell. So Trevor, I love this deck because sometimes by this time we're like, okay, it's that deck list again. But this is not that deck list again. I have not seen Kita today. It's something that only some players play. It's in the Inkwell in this case, but it definitely just shows that Trevor's list is Trevor's list specifically.
Yeah, 100%. This Kita is another way of ramping us. Of course, she's great for putting ink from your deck into the Inkwell, so you don't need to deplete resources from your hand. Generally, with Kita being a 4-drop, you then on turn 5 use her ability. So you still need to play a 5-drop, but then you skip to turn 7 the turn after. No 1-drop from Trevor, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have one. Last game, he chose to hold back that 1-drop Clarabelle until he was able to play the 1-drop Clarabelle and then immediately shift it. So a bit of a slower start from Trevor, but we expect that for these Sapphire decks.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the most pivotal turn is this ramp on 2. I mean, it's hard, but I mean, he made it, so congratulations. Absolutely. You've made it to your ramp on 2. We see that Stop Chaos on his track, and there we go. So maybe we'll get to see the Jasmine shift in action.
Maybe so. And you mentioned that Stop Chaos in his track. That seemed to be the Everest for R&B in the previous match. Again, we saw he was having a bit of a laugh, but after 2 of them, it basically completely wiped his board and led to Trevor taking that game 1. Can Ryan change that here and take us to a game 3 and beyond? We're going to find out. John Silver into the Inkwell. We're going to play the Cinderella Dreams Come True, and her ability is going to trigger, meaning that we can put any card from our hand into the Inkwell and then draw a card. Again, this is triggered when you play a princess, but if you played a princess during your turn, she does count for herself. So if we can play another princess on a follow-up turn, then she would trigger again.
And I have seen people ask several times in several places, hey, I've seen these lists, and there's just one princess in there. Why are you running a card like this if there's only one? She's just that good by herself, where she is often the only princess in the deck. She's obviously got Jasmine here, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, if you ever see her by herself, it's because she's just that good.
Just that good.
But either way, we are trucking along here and having that Elsa go ahead and say, hey, I'm coming over.
I'm coming over, and there's nothing you can do about it. Passing back over to Trevor, finding a Sail the Azure at Sea off the top of the deck. This could be ink, or maybe just help us dig a little bit further through the deck, or again, just to keep ramping. We know that Sapphire decks like to get to that high ink threshold, and down comes that Jasmine, and we've got a reader. Ryan going, yeah, just give me a minute. Let me take a little look at this here. Right, okay, I guess I'll return all my characters to my hand. Are you having a good time, R&B? It looks like you are. Yeah, this Jasmine is a shift 5 character, 5/5 quest for 2, and on play, if you shifted her, return all other exerted characters to their player's hands. That's all other, including your own. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I think it really takes advantage of the game too, because if you think about it, if you are the Ryan and you're going first and you want to go fast, you're like, okay, I need to get as much value as early as possible because he knows what Trevor can do. And so while he's going fast, Trevor's just going, good, do it. Because Trevor didn't take anything, because it's all exerted characters. So normally you'd be like, well, I don't want to punish myself. But in this case, he said, no, I literally have one character. I'm fine.
Absolutely. And again, there could be some board states where you might just quest out your other characters and, hey, it might not feel good to put them back to your hand, but if your opponent's about to win the game, then it's certainly an out. It's one of our very few remaining board clears, like quote unquote, because it isn't an assured board wipe, but it can do that depending on the context of the board state. Lantern staying on the board, yeah, but let's not put that into the Inkwell.
He's like, I don't know. You're over.
I don't know, man.
I'll just do it. What do you want?
Don't ask me.
And honestly, if I was Ryan, I'd be in the same position because it feels like Trevor is pulling out all the razzle-dazzle magic here. Because here's the Clarabelle who pairs so well with this Jasmine, because we just returned a ton of cards to Ryan's hand and with that Jasmine, and now Clarabelle comes down and says, exactly how many did I return to your hand?
Exactly how many, because I'm going to be drawing that many cards, and here we see it, drawing 1, 2, 3 cards off the top of the deck for Trevor. So Clarabelle certainly keeping us gassed up, and this Jasmine I really like to see, Katie, because when it first came out, this is not a card that really saw play, maybe a little bit of testing very early on, but we've not seen it in the competitive metagame across DLCs and set championships and various competitive events, but maybe finding its place in this format full of things like Purple Steel, Ruby Amethyst that just wants to turn everything sideways, but I think more than anything, dogs.
Dogs. And we've seen them barking. Dogs. I've heard them bark a little less as the day goes on, but they're still around, and Trevor knew that coming into this room. And I'd like to point out that when we go into, as casters and people who look at deck lists all the time, you sometimes say, what are they holding back? What are they hiding from us? And I feel like it's so exciting. You're like, it was Jasmine!
Reveal.
Tell me your magic here. But there is still more magic in R&B's deck. There we'd have that World's Greatest Criminal Mind, which, like I said, it's in a meta where you have some big, beefy cards like Clarabelle and even that Jasmine. World's Greatest Criminal Mind is now far more valuable than it is in a more aggressive meta.
Absolutely, yeah. World's Greatest has been seeing play on and off since its birth into the game, and I could not be happier. So Amber doesn't have a ton of removal, but World's Greatest was one of the best, and of course now they've got Horseman Strikes. Is Amber becoming the banished character's color, Katie? Please tell me tell me it's not true. Say it and so.
Control, famous Amber control deck.
Famous Amber control decks. Yep, sounds about right.
Now, I'd like to note we have seen Trevor play for 1.5 games. We've seen him win. What we haven't seen. Well, we've seen this.
Okay, so. Wait a minute.
Yeah, he's singing.
Oh, he's playing the 8 cost. Someone's going to say
course.
Jasmine is not an 8 cost character, but we're just going to do it the hard way.
Yes.
8 cost for Under the Sea. Put all opposing characters of 2 strength or less to the bottom of their player's deck in any order. And Ryan's deck full of characters of 2 strength or 3 strength. So these Under the Seas and Stop Chaos in their track are causing Ryan some issues.
Yeah, I don't think he finds it fun anymore. Earlier we talked about Horseman Strikes, and he said, well, there's not really a lot of evasive in Trevor's deck. And I thought, oh, what about Prince Philip? We have not seen Prince Philip of any flavor, or, well, it's just mean scary in Trevor's deck, which has been a hallmark in, I would say, most decks we've seen of this color combination. So Trevor has built a control deck in Emerald Sapphire that says, I don't need Princess Philip and Malicious Mean Scary. I control other ways.
I control you in my own ways. Thank you very much. We're going to get all those lanterns down. Triple lantern on board, meaning we can pay 3 less for any character we want to play. Down comes Dumbo, the 9th wonder of the universe, with that evasive ability, breaking records, making history. Big ears.
And I made because I see when you play 1 card at a time against this color combination, Emerald Sapphire specifically, it gets painful because there's lots of punishing single board cards. Hades Infernal Schemer can show up, and then another man I see in hand, and that is John Silver. So there is a lot of things that can make you go, okay, will this survive the turn? And notably, it's not removal. Dumbo is fine. The other thing, though, is you give it Reckless, but Dumbo can use his ability. So there's ways around Reckless. But John Silver can still be a problem because if for some reason he wanted to quest, that's not on the table, but he'll still get Lord no matter what. So it's not the worst thing that can happen, but it's still frustrating.
And he's just a big body, Katie. 5/5 quest for 2, something that needs to be answered. We're going to ink another copy of your welcome and pass back to RMB. 3 cards in hand, I do believe. We're going to start off by breaking records. We're going to pay 1 ink and exert one of our characters, exert the Dumbo to draw a card and gain 1 lore. JDZ's favorite thing to do: gain 1, draw 1, pass.
Honestly, fair. I think you should have to pick because that just seems like you get a lore with the card. Come
Absolutely.
on. But I like it, and that's why Dumbo has been a mainstay in Amethyst since he made his debut in Fabled. But now we see Ryan saying, listen, I'm still drawing cards because at the end of the day, that is the guess. You can get to the part where you're still in the game, but you need to keep powering your hand with more cards and cards that do good stuff. Dumbo by himself, he cannot win the game, but that is a good response here.
Another copy of the World's Greatest Criminal Mind, choosing to get rid of the John Silver. The Jasmine actually has the exact same stat line, but Jasmine has done her job, whereas John Silver every turn is generating value by questing and giving Reckless. Of course, as you mentioned, the Dumbo is able to get round it, but still, let's get that John Silver out of here for when we want to play a character that isn't evasive.
Yes. So now Ryan has reached a point where he has 2 evasive characters on board, so he's feeling maybe a little bit safer because Trevor doesn't have any evasives we've seen. We haven't seen a Prince Philip Vanquisher of Foes, which is sometimes he might have thought he would see it at some point. He hasn't. So at this point, he's stabilized a little bit, but Trevor has, it looks like, at least 3 cards, maybe 4 in hand. So Ryan's just saying, what else are you going to do? Because I have seen you do some pretty controlling things, I'd say.
Absolutely, that's the name of the game, is what we're looking to do. R&B doing some art with his inkwell. Quite the artist is our R&B. Again,
it's a smiley face.
Our Illumineers are indeed creative souls, and R&B showing a little bit of his smile on his face. I wonder if that's going to turn into a frown when something bad happens.
Listen, you can wipe his board, but you can't wipe the smile off his face.
I bet he can. We saw it happen in
game. We saw it
game
once. All right.
Katie, I'm going to call you a liar.
All right. It's called, manifesting here. Oh, my gosh. We're about to see something I love in Disney Lorcana, the rare double shift.
The double shift.
You can do it, and that's the thing that's crazy. We don't see it all the time. Sometimes we saw it with Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. We've maybe seen it with Lady Tremaine. In this case, she shifted on herself, and that's how you have to do it to get the ability. So
Absolutely.
Shifting on top of a Jasmine, not only do you use less ink, but it counts. Dumbo was exerted, Dumbo goes back to hand, and so that is a little bit more of that control aspect that we have been seeing. But unfortunately, once she's exerted, she then sees herself with the exertion.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to play a Clarabelle, a contented Wallflower, who allows you to draw a card if your opponent has more cards in hand than you, and then down comes that 1-drop Jasmine, who does give resist 1 to another character until the start of your next turn. So this contented Wallflower resisted up.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of another situations that I love to see where you have two characters that could shift. He did ink a Jasmine, and that he's played 2, and he did bounce 2 to his hand, so inking 1 is not the worst. So he's like, I could shift Clarabelle, I could shift Jasmine. Do you have any targeted removal? And if you do, pick. And so
I am a little curious why the Jasmine was even returned to hand, though, to be honest.
well, she returned all exerted. And
Except all other exerted characters.
Oh. Maybe he's tired of it.
And I think
they're looking at it.
I actually think that's just been noticed by our lore guides here, and they're going to look to tidy that up.
And that's why we love our lore guides.
Because we inked the big Jasmine as well, so that's something that the lore guides may want to do something about. So, yeah, our lore guides are going to make sure to come to the right conclusion here of whatever they see fit. Again, the big Jasmine only returning all other exerted characters to hand. And I think just a little quick there again, it's round 12, tensions are high, and just bringing the Jasmine herself back to hand, including the big Jasmine that was under her and the 1-drop Jasmine that was under her. We've inked the second big Jasmine and played the 1-drop, so lore guides are going to work out the best way to clean this up and try and get us back on board. But cannot complain. This has been an incredibly spicy deck from Trevor. This is high-stakes matchup.
Yeah, and it's something where I had this exact situation happen to me when I played at a tournament where I was like, how do we rewind? And the answer is you immediately stop touching your cards and help, because it's rewinding a game state takes a judge. You should pretty much never do it unless you're at home hanging out with your friends. But if you're in a tournament, the judges are trained to say, how can you step it back? How do we make it exactly how it was? And that's what we're doing right now. They're walking through and basically saying, well, action by action, how do we get to exactly it was before what happened?
Yep. Looks like they're doing a good job of trying to fix this. Again, this is round 12. I will need to double check Trevor's exact score going into this game, but I know that R&B was on a 9-1-1 record.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because sometimes we talk about bounce as a way to get, it can be a way to control your opponent, but sometimes bouncing things to your own hands isn't the worst thing. In this case, he would have gotten 3 cards back. One of them could be used as ink. So it might have been something where he's like, oh, no, it's interesting because it's not always bad to do that. In this case, no, it does stay on the board. But now we do have Elsa, the 5th spirit, coming in. But she can be exerted here, or rather, no. She was left over.
So Elsa was already on the board. The Dumbo's going to come down, going to use the Making History ability to exert the Elsa, gain 1, draw 1. And it does seem that we are back on track. Our lore guides able to sort that out. A thank you to all of our lore guides putting in incredible work over the course of the weekend. We're very grateful for you. Super glad that we were able to get that tidied up, because it's been a super fun game, and I'd hate for it to end by anything other than authentic means.
Yes, and I mean, it's one of those things. That's one of these, we call them spicy cards, means that sometimes you don't automatically. I mean, there's some cards that we have played for 10 sets, and we all kind of muscle memory of what we do. And I would say that Jasmine is not shifting Jasmine in this deck combination, not one we're all used to. But no, this is one where it's very careful to know that she doesn't target herself. But in this case, Ryan says, all right, I'll keep going wide, which is one of the things he has access to. He does have some lower cost characters. In this case, we have the Ursula, the Whisper of Vanessa, and then that Royal Guard helping her out.
And that foil version of it as well. These new Whispers from Whispers in the Well, the foil versions in particular, are absolutely stunning. Probably my favorite foils since cold foils back at the beginning of the game's infancy.
It was delightful to open my first pack with one of them, because it's so fun when you open packs. They don't necessarily say how the packs are going to be before you open them and going, oh, but we'll see if her foiling is as good as the foiling she wants to do to get this win, because Trevor has put in a lot of time and effort in making sure Ryan can't win. But notably, Ryan is at 6, Trevor is at 11. Ryan has been able to find ways to draw cards, and he's been able to take full advantage of his resources with this lantern. So even if an ink geyser came, he would have 4 ink and 3 ink geysers, so effectively 7 ink to play characters at least. Lantern can only be used for characters. So Ryan has done a good job of keeping a healthy board and presence, and saying that Trevor can try to control, but he's still going to keep playing.
Yep, a wide board from Ryan now. Things have certainly flipped. It was Trevor that was constantly putting on the pressure, but now R&B has managed to build his board wide. Last time he played that Ursula, it was immediately bounced back to hand, and this time it's going to be immediately given reckless, courtesy of the pick your fights from John Silver. Now this Jasmine is free to either go on a quest or sing a song. Is it going to be a quest? Yes, it does appear to be a quest. Trevor going up to 12 and pass back to R&B.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there are some characters on the board that could do some challenging, notably this Royal Guard. I love that that card is tied to card draw, and it takes full advantage of Amethyst's pretty greedy card draw nature. Junior Woodchuck Guidebook with Royal Guard can be devious because every time you draw a card, you increase his strength by 1. In this case, we're just going to draw a couple more cards, making that Royal Guard a little bit bigger each time a card is drawn.
Yep, certainly a high ceiling for this Royal Guard to be able to hit for a heck of a lot of potatoes. The card draw available to this deck, and now we are going to take that challenge into the Jasmine. If you can trade your 1-drop for a 6-cost Floodborn, you're feeling pretty good, Katie. Am I right?
I love high-performing 1-cost cards, and Royal Guard is definitely one of those. We've seen that with Olaf Helping Hand this weekend as well, where, yes, it does something. Even Clarabelle Clumsy Guess. It's a card that it costs 1, but it can do so much if you use it the right way. In this case, though, we are going to go ahead and get another Ursula on board, just going wider, saying, I'm just going to try to keep staying in this race to 20, inking the Rafiki, and getting that Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, which, like we said, we've seen a lot of times played this weekend as a little bit of insurance to say,
sure,
I don't know what you're going to do to my hand size, I don't know what you're going to do to my board, but I'm ready if you do something funky.
Sure, I mean, these Emerald decks are known to run cards like Bend to My Will to make your opponent discard their entire hand. So Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, that perfect insulation against something like that.
So we do see there is a Stop Chaos in his tracks, but instead we go ahead and get Donald Duck, perfect gentleman in there.
Clarabelle going to come down, pay that extra ink, and we're going to bust that guidebook, so no additional draw for R&B on his next turn.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where, like we said, item removal, not always something we talk about in the meta, but in a time where we have these Junior Woodchuck Guidebooks, which generally are played across 2 turns, suddenly Clarabelle's like, I'm pretty intentional. I'm not clumsy when it comes to getting rid of items.
Yep, absolutely. This Ursula Whisperer Vanessa was given reckless by the John Silver, so will not be able to quest, must make a challenge on this turn. R&B going to think this through. He could make history with it, courtesy of the Dumbo on the board. But then again, this John Silver is sitting there. We are not quite big enough to take it out as a 4-5 unless we double in. So R&B may be looking to draw some more cards. We're going to use the Breaking Records ability for Dumbo. Exert, game 1, draw 1.
Yeah, and if we could find another World's Greatest Crime, but here we go, 5, 4.
Oh, maybe not.
Reverse.
Let's rewind that back.
Yeah, just doing the math and just trying to make sure. Okay, so once you have that Deona in hand, you do want to do your math as carefully as possible because Deona can be a card draw tool. Also, you can use it to change the math on some challenging because it will exert everything on the other side. So he's just making sure he's emptying his hand the way he wants to, possibly before he deploys that Deona.
Hades going into the...
I was wrong.
And we got what you meant. The Hades going into the Inkwell. Down comes a Royal Guard. And here's my Deona, who's going to exert all opposing characters. And then both players are going to draw up to 3. This is one of the most powerful new cards in the game. Certainly contributing a lot of power towards yellow-purple, red-purple, blurple, purple-steel. Deona, it looks like she's going to be a staple for the next couple of years, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, Elsa for Spirit, we love it. We love it, and we maybe sometimes not love it on the other side, but it forces that interaction, it foils your plan, and Deona says all of you are involved in this now. It's not just one, but now R&B has learned his lesson and says, I'm not keeping any Junior Woodchuck Guidebooks around. No. I will play it and cash it in.
That promo version of the Horseman Strikes, this is my favorite. The black text box, I think, just makes this beautiful. There is a lovely epic version of this card, but that's my favorite.
It is fun. I love that they've changed the art for the promos, like the flavor of it, and this one is spooky.
As it should be.
But we still have a few more options here. We're seeing something where this ink color combination can sometimes be aggro. And so to see a player have access to this much ink, we have 3 lanterns, then we have 10 ink, so a total of 13 lore floating to play characters is a lot. It's a lot of decisions to make.
What is Elsa up to? R&B got a few decisions to make here. So this Ursula, of course, does have Reckless, so cannot quest. Will have to challenge or exert for the making history ability of Dumbo. It appears we're going to take a double challenge into the Donald Duck. 4 damage from the Ursula into this Donald Duck that has a 2-5 stat line. Finishing it off with the Elsa. There does need to be 2 damage on both this Elsa and Deona. Elsa and Ursula. There we go. Everything above board. I expect we will want to... Oh, wait, we've only just played the Royal Guard this turn.
Correct.
And the Deona this turn, so no more challenges available, except that Ursula on the far right. Did that only come down this turn, though?
I don't believe so. I think
5, 6, 7. So 6 for Deona. No, so that could make a challenge then.
Yeah, so...
Or a quest. Yeah, we're going to take out the Clarabelle. I think that's right. Take away that shift line.
Yeah, because now you have so many characters on board where giving the Reckless, it can be really frustrating when you have lots of only one character on board. But then we see our 3rd Junior Woodchuck guidebook. And as we've talked about this card before, you can spread that cost across 2 turns. We've seen the downsides, the upsides, where if you wait, you might lose it and not have the ability to do it. But the upside is if you only have 2 ink and you don't have 1 more to do the last part, then you can say, don't worry, I'll do it next turn.
Yep, why not? I've got all the time in the world, but R&B taking firm control of this board state, must be feeling pretty confident. That being said, Trevor is at 15 lore with a John Silver on board, so R&B needs to be careful that it doesn't slip through his fingers, but he does have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lore on board. Again, these Ursula's quest for 3, as long as they've got a card underneath them, so that's 3, 6, 7 for the Elsa, 8 for the Guard, 9 for the Dumbo, 10, 11 courtesy of the Deona. We're going to play a Cinderella and a Clarabelle light on her hooves, but what do we have to get rid of? The John Silver going to give Reckless to one of these Ursulas. Very good. So we still have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lore on board for R&B. But that being said, he can't just quest out because Trevor is also presenting game on board.
Yes, so it's basically saying... It gets to the point where it's like, well, I can't win this turn, but I can make sure you don't win next turn. And that was his whole goal, is he's like, I just need to establish. And it's very interesting because I had players tell me, focus on the game clock. Don't focus on, just don't get short-sighted and only focus on what can I do to mess with my opponent? Because it's not about that. What do you need to do to just make sure you win on your next turn? And in this case, that's what he focused on, getting a little bit more ink, a little bit more board presence, drawing some cards, and then saying, all right, you can't win next turn. What are you going to do?
Yep, R&B needs to be able to interact with this Cinderella or Clarabelle, or he is going to lose the game. This John Silver, of course, is exerted, so should be able to deal with that. But we need a way to interact with the Clarabelle or the Cinderella, or its curtains anyway.
Exactly. We've seen World's Greatest Criminal Mind. That is one option, but otherwise... Yeah, obviously R&B, it's kind of saying, I've seen this a lot in Emerald decks where it's like, you get to pick. What are you going to do to deal with these problems I'm giving you? And he wants to quest faster than Trevor. By dealing with John Silver, you would lose that race, but he has to do something about it. So he's just going ahead, drawing a couple more cards and saying, doing the thing where you open the fridge and see if maybe there's something you bought that you forgot about, hoping for one of those World's Greatest Criminal Mind, and hoping there's some way to inch out of this conundrum he's found himself in.
Ursula, Whisperer, Vanessa. Was that a quest there? Yes, it does appear to be. That's going to take us up to 16 lore. But do we have a way to... Have you seen anything in R&B's hand that can get rid of a Cinderella or a Clarabelle, Katie? He's playing it pretty tight to his chest.
No, that's why I'm like, maybe he's digging for that World's Greatest Criminal Mind. But I've seen so many surprises this week.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, well, I don't know. I feel like... There's one card that I'm trying to see what's in Trevor's hand, because I'm still like, have we not seen the final? I feel like I saw Heads Held High. I'm like, that'd be the craziest thing in the world. No, it's something else. But either way, I think R&B is saying, what's the math? He's doing the math over and over again with the cards in his hand. How many cards can you draw? If you keep drawing cards, there's a chance you won't be able to play them. So he's just going a little bit wider here.
Do we have Deona? Yeah, I think it's got to be, because we've got those 3 lanterns and 3 spare ink. There's the Deona. So that's going to allow us to exert all opposing characters. Both players will draw up to 3. Very nice. So we can absolutely save ourselves here. And this is looking pretty for R&B. I think we might be going to a game 3. I could be wrong, though. Again, Trevor playing Emerald. There is a particular go-go in the deck that could cause problems, Katie.
Yeah, Emerald is just that little rascal of a deck, or in this case, a very big rascal.
Not even sure if he's running it, but you got to respect the possibility, right?
That's the thing, is people say you have to respect, and with Emerald, you have to respect everything. They might come from my hand, they might come from my board, they might come from my ink. You don't know what they're coming from.
Coming for you, Katie.
Yes, coming for you. They're right behind you right now. But in this case, R&B had his own shenanigans, and he was able to use that Deona to great use here. Now we just have Clarabelle by herself, which notably only can quest for 2, getting him to 19. We talk about reach, and Go-Go is the only card I can think of in this ink combination that has that reach that we're looking for. But we haven't seen it, and it's just not the kind of build that Trevor really has. So he's just trying to say, okay, back to control. Is there a way I can control this board?
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. And Ryan seems to have asked too many questions than Trevor can answer, judging by this hand. I do see a Stop Chaos in its tracks and a plethora of ink available for Trevor, but this a wide board that R&B has been able to build. 2 Ursula, Whisperer, Vanessa, and Elsa, 2 Deona, 1 Dumbo, 1 Iago, Giant Spectral Parrot, and another Royal Guard. This is looking pretty comfortable for R&B.
It is, and I mean, it looks comfortable right now. Ryan has been through an absolutely the choppiest of seas thanks to that Jasmine.
And that's it. Trevor's going to pack it up, and we are going to go to a game at number 3.
So Ryan has been through a lot. He has had his ink, his characters. He's had his hand, some things sent to his hand. It's been a journey of just saying, Trevor, can you please be kind to me? But in this case, we're going to go ahead and say it's down to game 3. Trevor is going to get to go first. So he gets access to all the fun little lines, the Clarabelles, the Jasmine, all of that first. Ryan's seen a lot. He has to see it for one more game. And one other thing I am kind of excited to see, though, is that at this point, though, both opponents kind of know what they're dealing with. Ryan, I'm sure, is saying there's a chance there might be a Prince Philip, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't seen much of anything scary. Philip, he's pretty good on that. And then on the other hand, I think Trevor's pretty confident there's no combo. So at this game 3, I think they've sniffed out most of the things.
Yeah, they've done their scouting at this point, so they're probably going to have a decent idea of what to expect. How is this final game going to play out? This has been a banger of a final round game, if I do say so. A lot of spice from Ryan, and Trevor certainly showing some innovation, not just going with the typical Philip sweep package.
And sometimes I wonder, and I asked some players last night, do you think there is an advantage to having, like, is the card read where somebody, where your opponent says, can I read that really quick?
I think mentally, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it has to help.
If my opponent reads one of my cards and I'm like, okay, you haven't been playing around this and you are, maybe you will be more aware of it now that I've just played a copy, but it's clearly not ingrained into your instincts as a player, right? Like the more you play Lorcana, we learn to expect certain things on certain turns, like again, play patterns on curve. So if you pick up a card that says to me, okay, you're not ready for that.
Yeah, and I mean, we say, your play lines, some of the greatest players, they're like, oh, I basically have muscle memory. I just know. I see the cards. I know what to do next. In this matchup, Ryan probably hasn't been against a deck like Trevor's. I mean, he's been flavors of it, but not exactly. And quite frankly, this Amber Amethyst deck is fairly new to the meta as a deck that you're seeing, especially in around 12. So both of these players are saying, okay, I have to use all my Lorcana knowledge, every card I've ever read, and make sure when I make a choice of what I'm going to do, I make the right choice and I don't play into something. We've seen a lot of this Sapphire Emerald deck asking them to be like, you wouldn't do this, would you? And then they play into it. We saw that with that Jasmine early on. And so they both just have to keep their guard up and don't let the fear of something happen. The play to your outs concept is making sure that you do the right thing, even if you're afraid that something bad might happen, because it's the only thing you can do to win. Yeah,
absolutely. Trevor going to start off with inking John Silver, and for the first time this match playing a 1-drop. So far, Trevor's been holding back that Clarabelle to play it and then shift it straight away, which has been a pretty heads-up play because Ryan, of course, has access to Elsa, and with the lanterns in this deck can play it even sooner. So wanting to protect that Clarabelle as much as possible. Plus, the Clarabelle has innate value being able to break items, which we know Ryan's playing Lantern. But this time, Trevor establishing the Clarabelle. We do see that turn to sail the Azure Sea and a little quest for Clarabelle.
Yeah, and Clarabelle, I mean, like we've seen, she's good at card draw. She also is one of my favorite singers. So we've seen that this deck likes to take advantage of some pretty frustrating songs. So that shift would be very vital. We hit our first ramp there. As we've seen, we call it a ramp by 246, you'll hear referred to, but it's basically you're going to ramp twice. Traditionally, in Blurple, you only see one ramp, but this deck sometimes likes to do a double ramp, and here we see it.
No 1-drop for R&B on turn 2. Again, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't play one on turn 1, because you look to play the Lantern and then you decide, do I need to play a 1-drop on turn 2 courtesy of the Lantern? And if so, which one? Am I playing the Rafiki? And am I playing the Elenwe? Do I need that support for World's Greatest Criminal Mind? Do I need the 3 strength that Rafiki can hit for? So pretty disappointing for Ryan to not find that 1-drop on turn 2, or maybe we did. We're going to play a Mowgli Man Club.
Oh.
We're going to take a look at the hand. We've got a couple of Jasmine and a Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman, but no non-character cards. So no discard this time, but certainly information for Ryan.
Yeah, and to me, I'm seeing a couple things. I'm like, okay, well, he can't do the Clarabelle shift line. He doesn't have the ability to shift that Jasmine. But the one thing I do think about is when I look at my opponent and I don't see songs, I'm like, well, they don't have it, but they're one card closer to drawing it because I haven't seen it inked and don't see it in their hands. So I'm like, okay, so things like Under the Sea, all of those are just getting closer and closer, and they can dig through for those cards using things like Develop Your Brain. So Mowgli's getting that information, he's soaking it in, but it doesn't mean you're in the clear. And these top-heavy decks, they can have kind of a little slow middle, and especially when Ryan's had a very slow start.
Absolutely.
The pressure is not super on for Trevor yet.
Yeah, but the game is young, although we are only on just over 12 minutes left. So hopefully we are able to come to a full conclusion for this match. We're going to ink. Haley's looking for a deal. Down comes the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, but not a lot else for Ryan, unfortunately. Yeah, a super slow start. We're going to ink Tipo, and down comes that Jasmine. No shift this time. Not looking to break the board, just establishing a 5/5 quest for 2 character.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, I'll look at Clarabelle, she says this, and then you're like, oh, but she's also 5/6 and quest for 2, and that's really great. So there's those cards where, the stat lines, the questing, it's all great. And this also means that if he should happen to fall into a Stop Chaos in his tracks and Under the Sea, now he is able to sing it because that has that sing together mechanic. So if Ryan finally lucks into what he needs with that guidebook and says, finally I can go wide, Trevor's saying, eventually I'm going to get those cards.
Eventually. There's the Lantern.
You haven't yet?
For a second Mowgli Man Club. Again, no non-characters in hand. A couple of Jasmine. Horseman strikes into the Inkwell. And there's that foil Cheshire Cat, and that looks absolutely stunning. My favorite foil from Whispers in the Well. Easy.
It is. It's stunning. It's one of those cards that you have a moment when you get a good card, and that's, something that's like a shiny. And this one is one where I was like, whoa, because it's just but I think now that we've all had some damage moved around thanks to that Cheshire Cat, it's not as fun. But one of the things we talk about is he doesn't have an on-play ability, but he's got that boost mechanic, and that boost means you can do it. You don't have to do it the turn he's played. You can do it whenever you want, however many times you want, just once per turn. And
once
here
per turn, but yeah, across multiple turns.
And unfortunately, Trevor is just banking on he gets the good cards later right now, I feel, because he isn't able to do that shift Jasmine. I think I saw the smaller, the one-cost Jasmine in his hand, but he knows that that's not...
there is a one-cost Jasmine in hand.
I think he's like, that's not the plan right now. This is the plan. And so here we go. Stopping some chaos in its track right now.
Yeah, and also returning one of his own characters to hand. Pretty interesting. Maybe for ink, or maybe just to re-establish it. And, of course, that Cinderella is going to trigger because we played a princess this turn, Katie.
Yeah, and it does say up to. Things that you want to pay attention to in Disney Lorcana is up to, may, because that's basically, sometimes you say, oh, it says 2. It's like, well, up to 2. In this case, we don't want Mowgli to go back because his whole plan is to find some more of those fun songs to sing. So in this case, the Mowglis can stay on the board. Now we have a still pretty impressive board right here. And like you said, Jasmine being a princess pairs so fine with this Cinderella. Yeah,
and so many princesses in the deck. But yeah, these Jasmine's probably not the ideal characters to play. You'd prefer to have John Silvers or Clarabelles, but they will do. They are big bodies, they quest for a lot, they hit hard. Jasmine, slay queen.
Yeah, I mean, I've oftentimes felt, if I'm not playing optimally, if my deck's not working the way I want to, what I can hope for is my opponent isn't necessarily having the best game either. And right now, Ryan's having a pretty slow. I mean, the Mowgli, once they come on board, the on-play effect is great, but then he's just a 1/2. We see a Genie, which draws a card, but he's not undefeatable. And then we have that Royal Guard. So he's got some good cards, but it's certainly not the greatest hits of all time. And we are seeing Trevor do what I thought he'd do, where he is getting to some of the greatest hits of all time on his side.
Yeah, that being said, I do think both players are kind of hitting the lower power level of their deck.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, it could be worse for Trevor. He hit Ramp, he was able to hit Cinderella, he's been able to establish a couple of big Jasmines, but this definitely isn't the ceiling for this deck. But these Stopped Chaos in their tracks are stopping Ryan every single time and just completely shifting the tempo every time Ryan applies more pressure.
Yes, and he is happy to empty his hand because we see that Clarabelle that we know and love. She's light on her hoofs and now soon to be heavy in the hand because Ryan has been making sure to keep his hand full. And it's the favorite question in all of Disney Lorcana. How many cards in hand?
How many cards in hand?
And in this case, he is able to go ahead and refill.
Because I'm about to draw that many.
Yes, exactly. Sorry. The answer to that is that our hand, you mean, our hand size. And so Ryan says, okay, this is how many, because at end of turn, you go ahead and say, before I pass my turn, I get my Clarabelle trigger, I draw up to your hand size, and then I pass over to you, who now has a very full hand due to that stopping chaos on the track. But there's a little bit of disparity of power level on the two boards right now.
Hades into the inkwell, so we now have 6 ink, but that lantern's still on board, so we can play 7 ink worth of characters this turn. He did already ink a Deona. Looks like we're going to be paying a cost of 5 for the Ursula, Whisper of Vanessa, and another 2 ink here for a couple of 1-drops, the Royal Guard and that Elenwe. And this Ursula, Whisper of Vanessa does apply, create some pressure, but Trevor, I think, has the more dominant board state and is probably going to be asking the questions of R&B.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to be the person, you kind of are you chasing the winner, or are you being chased? In this case, Ryan has to try to chase Trevor, and he doesn't have as strong of tools as Trevor has.
Who is asking the questions and saying, do you have an answer for this? And who's going to be ahead in that race? We're going to play You're Welcome, shuffling the Whisper of Vanessa back into the deck for R&B, and then he's going to draw 2 cards, which again will fuel the Clarabelle lights on her hooves.
Yeah, and I mean, oftentimes it can be scary to give your opponent cards. I don't love giving my opponents cards when they have a control deck. But in Ryan's deck, we've seen, some of these cards. I'm not afraid of some of them. So he's going to go ahead and let Ryan draw 2 cards. And it's he's not super afraid because he's not a control deck. In this case, he's doing more devious deeds here and using that Clarabelle. Clumsy guess.
Clumsy as they come, just knocking that lantern over. What are we going to do with you, Clarabelle? We can't take you anywhere.
I mean, she's saying she's clumsy, but she's been very purposeful with what she's been doing. I've seen her, and I don't think it was an accident. And so now here we go. We have another power level where we just do a 1-to-1, and these poor Mowglis, they are 1-2. There's not a lot of cool things happening for that Mowgli. We do see another You're Welcome. R&B saying, is that allowed? And the judge says, yes, you are allowed to play You're Welcome twice on 1 turn. And then he proceeds to keep going and saying, I'm smiling.
I'm having a good time.
This is fun, but in the way where is this being filmed? Am I on a prank show?
Am I on stream right now? I really hope I'm not on stream right now.
Yeah.
Fun fact, R&B.
Good. People will sometimes you have a match and you're like, I wish you could have seen it. In this case, don't worry, Ryan, we all see it.
We see you. We see you.
We see what you went through out here, and it was a lot, because Ryan is now at the point where he is done controlling and starting that quest, which is usually the turning point in the match where you're like, okay, I'm kind of done cleaning up your warrant. I'm gonna quest out over here.
Yeah, let's just start asking the questions and say to R&B, yo, are you going to answer this? Because if not, I felt cute, might win the game.
Yeah, I win the game later, and he caused R&B to draw at least 4 off of that You're Welcome. So at the end of the turn, he's like, I'm going to draw a truly resplendent amount of cards. I mean, it kind of looked like he was looking at, half a deck in his hand. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible amount of cards that he has managed to draw. And R&B saying, what could I even do to get past this point? And he's looking through his entire hand, which was huge, looking through his deck, and I think at this point,
the game is probably over, because if not, this is definitely not allowed.
Yes, this is not normally in Disney Lorcana.
Do you mind if I just go through the deck and find the cards that I need? Is that okay with you?
Yes, and he is this. I always tell people, if you want to know who lost in a match, look who's looking at the top of their deck to try to find something. That's the person that usually lost. In this case, he said, where were my world's greatest criminal mind? And they were all hanging out together at the bottom. But R&B made it to some of the top tables, and he put a great showing. But Trevor came out victorious.
Yeah, Trevor on top this time, but commiserations to R&B, an incredibly consistent and fantastic player, and absolutely a showman, likes to put on a show for the people, and we appreciate him for him. Again, this is the Disney Lorcana trading card game, mate. We ain't like any other trading card game. We care about the fun, the entertainment, the shazazz.
Yeah, we talked about that with our fellow caster, Brent, that one of the things we love to see at the top tables is the pressure's on, but they're still having a little fun.
Absolutely.
Because I think I heard Rebecca
with
says...
Disney Lorcana.
Yeah, she was.